Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. What a show we have planned for today, ladies and gentlemen. Joel Embiid does the thing that Joel Embiid really loves to do. He likes to troll, apparently, and I'm not having it. Oh, I am not having it. And then also we're going to talk to Alex Coffey of Inquirer.com. If you know me, if you've listened to me, if you've watched me, if you've listened to the podcast, of course, you know I'm a big fan of Alex Coffey. And especially during spring training, she was making the good content happen there on the old social media platforms. And, of course, with Inquirer.com, you can read one of her latest stories on Inquirer.com a little bit later, as a matter of fact, but it's up there. Speaking about Kyle Schwarber's walk-off game-winning sac fly against the Padres, also talking about how Bryce Harper is a phenomenal teammate to these guys. Some great stuff out there from Alex Coffey, and make sure you guys are also following her on all social media platforms as well. So we'll talk to her about the upcoming trade deadline, how the Phillies went from a team that was 5 games under 500. They were in the midst of getting swept out of New York against the Mets, if you remember that fun series in Flushing. And then they just went on a run and became the second best team in baseball since June 1st. It has been a spectacular run for the Phillies since June 1st. How? Is my first real question to Alex. Also, we talk a little bit about her background. Her father was a sports writer. He did direct her to not get into the sports writing game, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Very interesting story from her about her early days traveling. When I say early days, I mean early days of life with her father traveling her around and bringing her with him, which is a beautiful thing, you know? So we'll talk to her about all things Phillies coming up. But we got to start it. Oh, and that Saquon Barkley character. So sorry, the Giants just couldn't figure out a deal. So we'll see how that goes, how that plays out there in Giant land. Let's start off with Joel Embiid. When I first saw it, and chances are you've seen it by now, in case you haven't, Joel Embiid was speaking at a movie premiere, I guess it was. It was for a movie production company that's, I think, partly owned by LeBron James and some other NBA entities. And Joel Embiid was a guest, and there's a little Q&A there before a presentation. And during the Q&A, one of the questions asked to Joel Embiid is, what can we expect next from Joel Embiid? And Joel Embiid went right to, I just want to win a championship, whether that's in Philly or anywhere else. Whether that's in Philly or anywhere else. I don't need this right now, just from a personal standpoint, and I think I share this thought with a lot of 76ers fans. I think a lot of 76ers fans feel the same way I do. Not right now, Joel Embiid. And I know right now he's trying to go back and say, oh, I was just trolling, and we'll get to that. But we don't need this right now, okay? We don't even know the starting 5 of our team before the season starts, and the bulk of free agency is already passed. We don't know the next step when it comes to what's going to happen with this team. We know Nick Nurse is here. That's great. We heard James Harden was going to be back, then he's not going to be back. He politely requested a trade. Now he's demanding a trade. We have heard the back and forth with James Harden. We've heard Tyrese Maxey's name dangled out there when it comes to the possibility of trading for Dame Lillard. Like, we've got enough going on right now. We have Tobias Harris talking about things when it comes to, you know, the casual Sixers fans who trade me for cookies, whatever the heck, crumble cookies. Is that what they were? We don't need now Joel Embiid to say, well, hey, guys, what about the attention for me? I haven't gotten enough attention this offseason, so what can I say that would get me attention? What can I say that would needle Philadelphia 76ers fans? Oh, I know. Me possibly not playing in Philadelphia anymore. First off, there's, I think, a growing population, especially after this, of the Philadelphia Sixers fan base that is ready to move on from Joel Embiid. So, yeah, anywhere else? Okay, yeah, maybe we can have that arranged. But then for other people that would like to at least see this team grow, maybe, and watch Tyrese Maxey take another step forward and see Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid really run the show here along with Tobias Harris and see what the Sixers could do in the upcoming season with really your 1-2 punch of Embiid and Maxey. And I'm one of those people. I want to see what that is. The last thing I need to hear is Joel Embiid hinting at being anywhere else other than Philadelphia. You know what I want to hear? You know, people would say, well, what is he supposed to say? And look, I understand that a lot of NBA veterans, they travel around. They try to win championships elsewhere, and I get that. But right now with Joel Embiid, I don't need that. I don't need to hear anywhere else from a guy that I have rooted for to be MVP, from a guy that I watched as this skinny little kid out of Cameroon, out of Kansas, right? Sitting there on his sofa, the 76ers select Joel Embiid, and he's just sitting there. Remember that at the draft? So he's just sitting there. Apparently there's a little delay, and then finally he was celebrating that he was a Sixer. I don't need to have watched that guy, waited 2 years for him to make his NBA debut, watch his NBA debut, and then just root for the guy nonstop, watch his growth, watch his maturation, watch him become a father. Right, that's a beautiful thing, and it was a huge change in his game and his professionalism after that. He really matured. That really made him, I hate to use the term grow up, but it made him grow up. And then I got to hear, well, first I got to watch him get bounced out of the second round continuously. And then in this particular playoff run, the way it ended, with him not showing up in Game 7, and the last image I have of Joel Embiid, the image that is still very much just in my brain, crystal clear, is him chopping it up with Jason Tatum at the end of Game 7. I much rather have crying Embiid quadruple doink than, hey, great game there, Jason Tatum. You're really good at this. I wish I was as good as you at this, and I wish my team was as good as your team at this, and I wish I at least played in an NBA Finals the way you played in an NBA Finals. And he's just laughing and laughing. I don't look. Football players exchange jerseys. I don't care. That's fine, unless you really got your tail handed to you. Then that kind of would piss me off. But to barely show up there at the end of Game 6, to not be there at all in Game 7, or not be there at all in Game 7, and then to be all like puppy dogs and ice cream and unicorns with Jason Tatum, I don't need that. And now to go through the offseason that we've already being put through as 76ers fans with the Harden saga and Harden watch, now we got to worry about Joel Embiid requesting a trade at the end of this whole run. Now we got to worry about him requesting a trade maybe even this offseason, whether that's Philly or anywhere else. That's not how you answer that question, Joel Embiid. Whether it's Philly or anywhere else, not how you answer that question. You know how you answer that question? I just want to win a championship. I want to win a championship for myself, my teammates. And then, you know what? How about instead of Joel, the troll, how about just Joel, the kiss ass? Just for a second. Just for a second. Just kiss our asses for a second. I want to win a championship for the city of Philadelphia, too. They deserve it. They've been with me. They've supported me. I want to win a championship for that city. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear it anywhere else. Anywhere else? The crazy thing, and this is why I got such a soft spot in my heart for Sixers fans. I really do. Because a lot of Sixers fans really bought into the idea of breaking it down to build it back up. And I was one of them. Not for, as I've said many times before, my stance on the process was, okay, fine, let's have this process, which means more than just tanking. So this is going to be a 3-4 year thing. And we'll see where we end up at the end of that. Well, bottom line is that's kind of what ended up happening. The NBA getting involved and Josh Harris cowering to the NBA and the NBA saying, all right, well, we're going to put in the Colangelos and that's how it's going to work, right? Through that entire process, the 76ers fan base didn't shrivel up and die. Through an 18-win season, 19-win season, 10-win season, it wasn't like there was no fan base that eventually came back out. It grew. The fan base might not have been going to the games, but in the away from the arena, the fan base was invested emotionally in what was going on because they were tired of the mediocrity ever since the days of Allen Iverson. And they wanted to see a final defined point of the Sixers turning it around finally. And Joel Embiid was the centerpiece. As Brett Brown would say, he was the crown jewel of the process. And now, I'm sorry, we haven't seen a second round. We haven't seen him make it past the second round. We haven't seen him make it to the NBA Finals. And we sure as hell haven't had a parade in Philadelphia courtesy of the 76ers. And now the crown jewel of the process wants to hint at playing anywhere else and winning anywhere else. So I want to win a championship, whether that's in Philly or anywhere else. No. We are not there yet, JoJo. We are not even close to that, JoJo. Not yet. Not for you to say that at any public appearance. And I don't want to hear at this stage of the game, in case you didn't see it, he's quoting people's tweets saying, this person right here saying, I'd like to win a championship in Philly or somewhere else. The somewhere else was unnecessary, to be honest. And Joel says, check my, buddy, check my middle name. Troel, of course. And then he goes on to say that, I lost my place as best troll here through, though it went to Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey assumed being a troll for the cookie picture that he put up there in reference to Tobias Harris's comments. We don't need Joel the troll right now. We need Joel to be a winner. We need Joel Embiid to be a leader. And we need Joel Embiid to at least make us feel like it's here or nowhere else. Because we're the fan base that invested all our emotion in Joel Embiid. We're the fan base that, when all the stuff was going on with Ben Simmons, we still had faith in Joel Embiid. With all the stuff going on throughout the seasons, the battles between him and Joker and MVP awards and all that stuff, we were the fan base supporting Joel Embiid. And then we watched the way he didn't show up in Game 7. We watched the way he was smiling and laughing with Jason Tatum at the end of that game. And we watched Joker then go on to win a championship. And all the while, we're starting to think, you know what, maybe Joe does need to play a little bit more like the Joker. Maybe he needs to play a little bit more like Nikola Jokic. And then you know what, maybe the team will win. Maybe the Sixers will win a championship. Then maybe the Sixers will make it out of the second round. Then maybe the Sixers will make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We don't need JoJo the Troll. We do not need Troel right now. We need Joel Embiid to be a pillar that we could build a foundation and have him be the guy that supports everything else that's going to be revolving around him. That's what we need from Joel Embiid right now. Not the idea of entertaining going anywhere else to win. This is it. This is it. And then at the end of this season, if it ends like it always has, unfortunately, then we'll start talking about it, really breaking it down. And that's where we start talking about maybe building around Tyrese Maxey, as we've talked about before. But for me, I heard that comment. And I wasn't enraged. You know what it was? The thought that really came into my mind was, oh, and just like that, the Sixers became Tyrese Maxey's team. And then I also thought about it like this. Like, I think we all have this family member at gatherings that just doesn't know when to they'll continue to say like inappropriate things. And it's like, well, that's Uncle whoever, or that's Aunt whatever, Joel Embiid is at that level with me right now, where it's like, Joe, I think he's hilarious. I love his personality. There's things that other people hated that he did in the past that I found funny. The shush the crowd thing, I found hysterical. I felt like that was just him being him. That was him being a troll. This goes beyond just trolling, because you're talking about quitting on us. That's what he's really talking about. And trying to walk it back, I don't think he said what he said. I don't think he said what he said to be a troll. I don't think when he was asked the question, what's next for Joel Embiid, I don't think he was thinking, how can I really get the fan base? How can I really stir the pot? I don't think he was thinking that at all. I think he gave an honest answer. And I get what he's saying as an NBA player, and we've seen NBA players win elsewhere, play a long time someplace, go somewhere else, win a championship. We've seen it happen. But we don't need to hear that at this point in Joel Embiid's career. He's not like a 35-year-old veteran. He's not like a James Harden, 32, 33 years old, looking to win a championship. We're talking about a 29-year-old athlete who'll be 30. I don't need to hear this right now. If this doesn't end on the Sixers' terms, I will be enraged. Like, what I mean by that is, if Joel Embiid all of a sudden becomes the guy to force a trade and quit on the franchise and say, it's not going to happen here, I'm going elsewhere. If this doesn't end on the Sixers' terms, I'm going to be pissed off. If this ends in a circus, and it's going to end in a circus, Joel Embiid, of all the things that he would be, mild-mannered about, I very much doubt it would be about finally ending his career in Philadelphia. I think that would be, I'll use the word, a great conflagration. That's what that would be. Joel Embiid's end as a 76ers player. We don't need that, Joel Embiid. We do not need that show at the end of your run as a member of the Sixers. We don't need that as a member of the Philadelphia community. We don't need that as a Philadelphia fan base. And we sure as hell did not need to hear yesterday you entertaining the thought of winning a championship anywhere else where you haven't even taken our franchise. You haven't even taken our franchise out of the second round of the playoffs. So I don't even want to hear you looking elsewhere to elevate some other team to a championship level, especially the New York Knicks, and they're just sitting there just waiting for the scraps of the Sixers to fall off the table, for them to pounce. That wasn't a troll. That was just flat out insulting to hear the words anywhere else. James Harden could do it. I can do it. James Harden could just go somewhere else willy-nilly, wherever he wants, whether it's Houston, Brooklyn, Philly, now L.A., maybe. Why can't I just work myself out of Philadelphia? Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Want no part of that. No part of that. So that was my take on Joel Embiid. Ladies and gentlemen, Phillies, of course, were off yesterday. Arizona Diamondbacks, 3 teams ahead of them right now in the wild card race. Phillies are still a half game out. The Marlins lost. The Giants, their game was suspended due to rain. They were tied at 2 against Cincinnati Reds. And the Arizona Diamondbacks, by the way, they have lost 4 games in a row. So everything is looking good for the Phils. Before they start this 3-game series with the Milwaukee Brewers, Aaron Nola will get the ball against Julio Teheran coming up later today, 6:40. So make sure you guys catch us on the Jacob Media postgame show for the Fightins postgame show, of course, and we'll have ourselves some fun with that. This conversation I had with Alex Coffey was a lot of fun for a lot of reasons. One, just talk baseball. Love talking baseball. The other was her background and her father's background in writing. And Alex took over the beat for our friend Matt Breen, who now writes great feature pieces. If you haven't read Matt yet, Matt wrote this great piece on Pete and Cavilla during the All-Star break. That was just a phenomenal piece. You should check that out as well. But she came over, picked up the pieces, and handled business. She's been doing a great job covering the Phillies. Been a big admirer of hers for the last 2 years that she's been covering the Phillies. She does great work, and we'll play that conversation that we had yesterday. There was a couple of times in the conversation yesterday that we dropped, yesterday's game or tonight's game, whatever. So just know that this was recorded yesterday, actually at 3:00 in the afternoon. We talk about the trade deadline, who would be a good fit here in Philadelphia, and we'll get into all of that with Alex Coffey coming up in a second. But right now, let me tell you about the good people at Steven Singer and Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Now, you go to the other corner of 8th and Walnut, now what are you going to get? I'll tell you what you're going to get. No pressure, no haggling type of sales. That's what you're going to get. Easy peasy. You're going to get treated like a real family member, and you're going to get what's known as the perfect price. Now, what's the perfect price? While other jewelers are marking things way up, just to mark it down a couple of bucks, make you feel like you won something. Well, at Steven Singer Jewelers, they're going to take care of you where you don't have to worry about that pressure or that form of haggling. You just sit back, relax, and concentrate on what beautiful piece of diamond jewelry that you want to buy at the other corner of 8th and Walnut. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Without further ado, let's jump on the Roth and Orthopedics guest line, talk to our friend Alex Coffey of Inquirer.com. Rothman Orthopedics guest line from Inquirer.com. She covers the Phillies. She does an amazing job. Make sure you guys are reading all things Alex Coffey on Inquirer.com and following on social media as well. Alex Coffey finally joining the program. Great to have you, Alex. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mark?
I am doing fantastic. My listeners, my viewers know I'm a huge fan of yours. You've done a fantastic job since taking over the beat with the Phils 2 years ago. Social media posts, the stuff from spring training was fantastic. And you come from a writing background. You come from a family of writers, do you not?
I do. My dad wrote for the New York Daily News for about 35 years, somewhere in that range. So.
Okay. And author in his own right. You guys can look up his books. He's an incredible writer. Wayne Coffey is his name. But what's funny is, I don't have any family in the radio, the print, or the TV business. So everyone whenever, like, I had free reign, I could do whenever I wanted. But people I have talked to always say they don't want their kids to follow in their footsteps in this type of business. You being a writer, did your father encourage, discourage at first? How did that kind of play out in the family dynamic?
Well, he always brought me to events. So I think in that way he was encouraging me. But then when I would bring up the possibility of like going into writing, he would be like, do not do that. That's yeah. So I was kind of getting mixed messages. And initially I went into PR and communications out of college, mostly because I was like, this is probably not a stable business. It's a bad idea. But I started writing a little bit, and I kind of caught the bug, and then I just told him that I was going to do it, and that it wasn't. I remember saying that it wasn't like I wasn't asking for his permission. I was just telling him.
You reported the news. That's all you need. Like, Dad, this is happening. Breaking. I'm going to become a writer. That's interesting. Do you have anything I'm just curious if anything sticks out to you from your childhood, like an event or anything like that that you attended with your father?
I think he brought me to the best stuff when I was so young that I couldn't remember. Like he brought me to Wimbledon when I was 1. He brought me to the Olympics when I was 1. You know what I mean? It's like stuff like that. Like I have pictures of myself as a baby, but I don't have vivid memories from being at Wimbledon.
Right.
Apparently he would like bring me into the press box and stuff and like pass me around, which is, questionable parenting, but it's okay.
Daycare in those days. That's all you're doing. Jason Stark's going to watch it for an hour. No, all right. No, Alex, but seriously, it's so great to talk to you and talk to you about this Phillies team and this Phillies season because it is just absolutely insane. Like the first real question about the Phillies I have to ask you is how did we get here? How did we get to watching this team be 5 games under 500 in the midst of being swept by the New York Mets in Flushing, and then all of a sudden they're the second best team in baseball only to the Braves since June 1st? How did that turnaround happen, Alex?
I mean, I think it's a bunch of like you can point to starting pitching. The bullpen has been really solid for most of the season. Like they blew a save. They won last night, but they blew a save last night off of Soto allowing those runs, and it was the first save that they had blown in over a month. And I feel like, as you know, I haven't been covering this team for very long, but anyone that's been watching this team for a long time knows that is, not the norm historically for them to have a run like that. So I think a lot of credit goes to the bullpen. A lot of credit goes to the emergence of their starting pitching over the past month and a half. That kind of like steadied things out, I think, for them because, when you have starters that aren't able to go deep into games and you're like leaning on the bullpen more and then the bullpen gets fatigued and, there's like a real domino effect to that. So I think pitching was honestly really what carried them. So, but it's funny because it's like a team that's packed with stars. And I really don't think it's been, it's not like the stars that have been stepping, like, occasionally they do, but I don't think that that's like the main reason why they're where they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call Ranger Suarez a star, and he had a dominant month of June. I mean, Taijuan Walker has been pretty darn good for him as well. He's not a star. He was a nice acquisition to make in the offseason, obviously. But yeah, a guy like Trey Turner, for instance, you feel like he starts to hit a little bit of a stride, and then it starts to turn into a little bit more of a slump. June was a good month for him as far as getting on base, 350 on base percentage, which was a sight for very sore eyes for Phillies fans, and then kind of teetering up and down again. Do you think it is anything? I don't know. You're around him. Is he a guy that looks like he's uncomfortable, or is he a guy that is around familiar faces in this clubhouse and in this ballpark?
It's hard to say because I don't think that he's ever had a stretch like this in his career. Like a lot of this is new for him. I don't think we've asked him if the contract is weighing on him, playing in a new city is weighing on him. And he says that it's not. But the fact of the matter is, like, whether it's affecting him or not, it is new. Like he has never signed a deal that's this long before. This is a different market from what he's played in, even when he was like out in LA and stuff. Like LA is a big market, but the media, like it's like a different media market here.
Yeah. And fan base.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people have been, making these comparisons to Castellanos and again, like Turner hasn't said that he is in the same boat or feeling the same things, but it wouldn't shock me if there's just something about like being here that first year and adjusting and like maybe it being a difficult transition. And I think that that's something that we'd have to like ask him about like in spring training next year. But that's just my take. It just seems like a difficult transition. And we've seen snippets of the type of player that he can be. Like he made an incredible catch yesterday that saved the go-ahead run from scoring in extra innings. And it was honestly like a pretty good weekend for him. Like from, he had like some clutch hits, like RBIs and stuff like that, but has just struggled to consistently deliver, and he's known for being consistent. I mean, this is a guy who's like a career 300 hitter. So when you're setting that bar for yourself for your career, people expect consistency. So, that isn't really what we've seen from him so far, but it's kind of hard at this point to nail down exactly why that is,
To talk about the team as far as making people feel comfortable, to distill it even further, a guy like Bryce Harper, I was going to ask you about just overall team chemistry and, what you make of that. If that's too much, for that's too much for the movies, or if that's actual tangible, real thing. And I'm writing things down, and they all go back to Bryce Harper, whether that's Bryce Harper, calling the bullpen after he breaks his drought, whether that's Bryce Harper laughing it up with Trey Turner on the base paths yesterday after his double, and he was surprised Trey Turner didn't score, or it was the story that you wrote about in Inquirer, talking about how he went out there and he talked to Jeff Hoffman to congratulate him on his 2 innings scoreless, helping the Phillies win that ball game. It all seems to stem from Bryce Harper, and I'm sure Kyle Schwarber is another team leader, is another guy that really helps lead that charge. But really, it seems that it really comes from Bryce Harper a lot of these instances.
Yeah, I think so. I think Schwarber is more of like a vocal leader, whereas like Harper leads more by example. But like for example, Schwarber is the guy that will like do toast after wins and like toast like specific guys, and it's not always like the big name guys. Like sometimes it's like a reliever who just got called up, like a younger, you know what I mean? Like it's not always like the big name people. So yeah, I think it's like a combination of both of those guys, but they lead in different ways. But I will say, like, I do think that Harper's energy has like a noticeable impact on the rest of the team. Even talking to Hoffman last night, I mean, he part of the reason he is up here is because when Bryce was trying to get at bats, like making his way back to being DH, they called up Hoffman, and called up meaning like they just had him come up to the ballpark to face him and throw him live BP. And Harper told him after the fact that he looked like a totally different pitcher. Like he had faced him in 2016, and he was like, I think your stuff is so much better. You're commanding it well. And like, he didn't have to do that, like he might have never like crossed paths with this guy again, like for all we know. But it like gave Hoffman a lot of confidence, and it made him think like, this guy obviously knows what he's talking about. Like maybe things are different for me. Like it's like the impact of like moments like that. There's small moments, and we probably like, we haven't heard about all of them, but they have a big impact for sure. So I think he leads in like kind of a more like under the radar way, if that makes sense.
To go back to the starting pitching, inconsistency is another word you could talk. We talked about it a little bit there with Trey Turner. You talk about a guy like Aaron Nola. You're talking about a guy like Zach Wheeler. It was good to see him break the 6th inning, get to the 7th inning threshold he did the other day in that final game against the Padres. So when it comes to Nola and Wheeler, what's being said? What do you hear around the clubhouse, if anything, about these guys trying to settle in and really find a groove to at least finish out the second half of the season?
I don't know as much about what's being said. It's just hard to get a sense of like what is going on with them. Wheeler hasn't really looked like himself. I feel like most nights he has like one bad inning where things implode, and then the other, like he kind of almost like picks up steam from then on. Like he pitched into the 7th last night, and his fastball had a lot of life to it, and the pitches that he gave up for home runs weren't necessarily bad pitches. So yeah, I mean, but he hasn't exactly looked like the version of him that we saw last year. And obviously Nola hasn't either. He'll have some great, brilliant outings, and then it'll be followed by like a rough outing. And it's just not, he's said himself that it's just not consistent. And I think that it's probably the combination of a lot of things. This probably won't be the most popular reason, but I don't think that like the defense helps them. I think that should be taken into consideration. with Nola specifically, like his numbers pitching with runners on versus runners off are like dramatically different. So him pitching out of the stretch versus out of the windup is something that, for whatever reason, maybe it's the pitch clock, maybe it's that they're like limited pickoff attempts in 2023 with the rule changes. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason in 2023, he's struggling with it more than he ever has in his career. So I think just like a combination of things, but obviously those guys are their aces, so they needed to figure it out.
Yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later. Yeah. And I have to ask about this too, because the trade deadline is just around the corner now. We got a couple of weeks away from the MLB trade deadline. What do you think are realistic expectations Phillies fans can have as that trade deadline gets closer and closer? What's realistic? Are we talking Alex Coffey? Are we talking Shohei Ohtani? Are we talking about Juan Soto just making his trip over here back to the East Coast? What are we talking about here as far as a potential deadline deal with the Phillies?
I think so much of it hinges on whether or not Bryce Harper is going to play first base, and they have said that he's going to play in the Brewers series, which starts on Tuesday, tomorrow. So that gives them like a week and a half to see if he can actually do it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that timing is, they're not rushing him, but I think that timing is like strategic. Like it gives them, the front office, like a couple of like a sizable amount of games where they can see like, is this feasible? Is this not feasible? Like, how does his arm look? Things like that, and if he can stick there, then I think that opens things up, on the roster. Like it opens that DH spot for Schwarber, gets him out of left field. And then you can add, an outfielder, maybe like a Bellinger or someone like that. And Bellinger also can play first base. So that if they did that, then that might like allow Harper some time to like, maybe play a game at first, then play, like switch on and off rather than like have him be their permanent first baseman. But again, like a lot of it just hinges on whether or not he can stick there.
He's got a week and a half audition just to be like, he can totally do this. He can't do this. Make a trade as soon as possible.
He's defied expectations. Like he's beaten these timelines before. Like if you recall, the initial timeline that they gave us for him returning period was around this time.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is he back, like beat it by months and months, but he's like theoretically going to be playing in the field by the time that they said he was supposed to be like just DHing like that. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Absolutely insane. So you would say around the Bellinger type of level would be something that would be a fair expectation potentially for Phillies fans.
Yeah. I mean, I think, with the way that they're playing, they're 9 games above 500. I mean, it's clear that they're contenders. I think that would make sense. And, anyone that like, it's ironic. This team was built to slug, but that's just something that they haven't really been able to do. So I think that those are the biggest needs is like outfield, finding an outfielder who can give them some pop.
Understood. Alex, you're a first-time guest here on the Farzy show. So, hold on. I just got to ask you this one question. Mm-hmm. After this series in particular, in or out on robo-umps? In or out on robo-umpires?
In.
In.
Definitely in.
Look at us. Look, I consider myself a non-practicing baseball traditionalist. That's the way I like to term it nowadays.
If you care about pace of play, like imagine how much time you're saving by like the manager not coming out and complaining. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a way to speed up the game itself.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Would you be so kind as a first-time guest of the Farzy show to play a little Farzy 5 with us? 5 fast questions here.
Yeah.
All right, let me just cue up the band because the band they've had off for a while. It's been a while since we had a first-time guest. Guys, you ready? Not terrible. All right, out of practice but good. All right, here we go. First question: best job before this job? Best job before you were in the media?
Well, I guess like Hall of Fame job, like working at the Hall of Fame, first job out of college. Wasn't in the media technically, so I'm gonna go with that.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. Go-to fast food place.
Cookout.
Cookout?
It's in the South. Yeah. I went to college in Virginia. It's like in Virginia, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be in Virginia in about a month. I will check that out. Fantastic. First, what do I order at Cookout? What's good at Cookout?
They have really good milkshakes. They have like hush puppies, like things like that. Like a lot of it, like fried. Yeah.
Fried. Fried. Oh, in the South? No way. All right. First date deal breaker. First date deal breaker. It's a first date deal breaker. Rude to the wait staff. Bad grammar in a text message. I imagine a writer wouldn't like that. I don't know. What's a first date deal breaker?
I would say, I think rude to the wait staff. You know, it's just like unnecessary.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. It's one of my favorite ones that people say that. And if you take someone out and they don't reach to share the bill, or at least try to pay the bill. That's have you ever seen the movie Bronx Tale? You know, the door test. That's like the modern day door test. If they don't reach, then you're like, you fail. Okay. Anyway, favorite city to travel to, other than like England for Wimbledon and all that stuff.
Yeah. I love San Diego. I really, really like San Diego. So I'll go with that.
I'm all about San Diego. Love San Diego. And then finally, Alex, you and I have a mutual friend named Devin Caney. I mentioned her name earlier in the show. She's awesome, and you are awesome. But what makes you beep your horn in traffic? What forces you and moves you to beep your horn in traffic?
Bicyclists, like bike riders, annoy me. Yeah.
You're first. You're first to say that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they just like ignore the rules of they live by their own rules. So bike riders, bikers. Yeah.
Fair enough. Alex Coffey, tremendous talking to you. Hey guys. All right, good job. Thank you. They shut it up really, really quick there. Make sure you guys are following Alex on Twitter, of course, all social media. Make sure you're reading all her stuff and her latest stuff on Inquirer.com as well. Alex, an absolute joy. Hopefully we can have you on again down the line, maybe a playoff pusher. The Phillies will give us that opportunity, but absolute pleasure talking to you, Alex. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Absolutely. Alex Coffey joining us on the Ruffman Orthopedics guest line. Jim and I were just talking during the interview there, and I just looked down at his comment on the Jacob Media page. Get dual citizenship if it means getting Ohtani. That's great. Thanks to Alex Coffey. That really was a lot of fun talking baseball with her and her career. Everyone I talk to who has a father or a parent in the business, they're just like, or mother, of course, in the business, they say, don't do this. What's your first piece of advice? Oh, don't get into this. And then sometimes they get into it, and sometimes like, oh no, you're right, I'm not going to get into that. So the fact that her father was like, don't get into this, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to do it, is cool. And I just traveled around. Imagine being a kid, and your dad's like, hey, we're going to Wimbledon, and then you're an adult. You're like, I don't remember going to Wimbledon. Well, you were like 2. But here's pictures of you at Wimbledon. That's pretty awesome, man. But really enjoyed that conversation. And how about Cody Bellinger, ladies and gentlemen? You want a little Bellinger action there for you at left field, right field, first base for the Phils? 301 average, 340 on base percentage, something like that. Still hitting with some pop. I think that may be a nice little trade. It's going to cost you something. It's not going to be nothing. But you know what? I want to give a shout out to my people. Hold on. I want to make sure I get the name of your show right. Mike Fuji, are you in the chat today, my friend? Sean Kilrain, you guys? I want to make sure I get this in here. Yeah, Sean's there. I see Sean. Where the heck's Fuji at? Anyway, I want to make sure I get this right. Is it Sully Squad? What the hell show was I on with you guys yesterday? Yeah, Sully Squad Sport. You fine people. Joe Sully, Diego, Sean, Fuji, you guys. You know what? You guys brought up a great name yesterday. You guys were kind enough to have me on your program. I've just dismissed this name because I thought he gave the Phillies every last bit that he had. Now he's back with the Pirates. How about that Andrew McCutchen playing left field for the Philadelphia Phillies in the not too distant future? What if the Phillies made a trade to reacquire Andrew McCutchen? Hitting 267. With a 380 on base percentage, mind you, is double digits in home runs. He got 11 home runs on the season. I want to say 10 home runs on the season. Make a trade for Kutch. I'd love to see Kutch. I'd love to see Uncle Larry back here in Philadelphia. Interesting name there, Sully Squad. Appreciate you guys. Let me tell you about the great people at Manscaped and manscaped.com. the leader in below-the-waist grooming. Join 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology. You'll love their Platinum Package 4.0 that includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer as well as their Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And yes, they come with skin-safe technology that helps reduce the risks of nicks so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So check out Manscaped at manscaped.com. How about Freestone Farm CBD, freestonefarmcbd.com? You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks it in a chart-topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush. And 21%. So next, these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD, freestonefarmcbd.com. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's get into the chat check, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start things off on the Farzy show page and see what's going on over there. Hello, everyone. Sean Kilrain, I get it. Embiid is frustrated. Also, you had an alpha, and that guy was Jimmy Buckets, but we choose Mr. Softy over him, which boggles my mind. Sean Kilrain, I'm with you there. Sean Gillespie, Embiid needs to try to finish second-round playoff series, not give up, win or lose. I'm with you. A, what's up, A? I'm biting my tongue on saying anything bad about Embiid, and that's hard for me to do right now. Don't bite your tongue. Let it rip. Let it rip, man. Lady, A? Ray Fitzgerald. I had said during the season, see what you can get for him because you're not winning with this makeup of the team, whether Harden stays or goes. Ray, see, I'm not far from you, man. I'm not far from you at all. Like, here's the thing. If Harden comes back, I see this team as a second-round playoff exit. If Harden goes, I see this team as a second-round playoff exit. But what if Tyrese Maxey does take that Hertzian-like leap in the upcoming season? Then maybe it's not a second-round playoff exit. And you know what? Let's look at it even as a 3-year model. Maxey stays. Embiid stays. Maxey shows you that big leap forward next year. And maybe you get bounced out of the second round still. Maybe that happens. But I'm going to feel a lot better about the future knowing that Tyrese Maxey is going to be here for a long time. And you're still going to have Joel Embiid in his prime. I'm going to feel a lot better about year 2 of the Maxey Embiid 1-2 punch. And then after that, year 3 is going to look pretty good as far as I'm concerned because I think Maxey's is going to continue to get better. And then he'll reach the ceiling hopefully in 2 years, 3 years, and be a guy that'll make a couple all-star teams, at least. That's where we'll start. We'll start with all-stars. But yeah, so Ray, I'm not that far from you, man. Sean Gillespie, what's going on again? How you doing? Ben's epic downfall is still near unbelievable. That is, yeah, it's a sad truth. I don't need any Sixers until the second round of the playoffs. I agree. Sean Kilrain, definitely wasn't any whispering of sweet nothings in that conversation. Man up and come back stronger. You agree? I agree. Absolutely agree. Just Dateep. What's happening? It's been a while. How are you this morning? I'm doing fantastic this morning. Allergies are getting me this morning. Yeah. Sean Gillespie, as I said before, the entire Sixers organization needs to be revamped and reorganized. I don't disagree. Just Dateep. Joel, entire generation is charm and soft. Trade him now. April. What's up, April? Just Dateep. They should build around bridges. Oh, wait. Thanks, Brett. Very nice. I think I delivered that perfectly for you there, Just Dateep. All right. TFN. What's up, TFN? Just is right. Zaire will be MVP next year. You guys. So bothers. Wait, PJ, you're still. What are you doing? I'm still in my phase where I choose to forget we have a basketball team, so I'm not phased. Yeah, I'm still so much in baseball mode right now that even when I talk about what's going on with running backs in the NFL, which is very interesting, something blew my mind. I learned something yesterday that blew my mind, and I'll get back to it in a second. But it really does talk about how like the demise of the running back position is just ridiculous in the NFL. But yeah, we'll talk about that in 1 second. But Sean Kilrain bothers me. we trade Bridges and Zaire. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, still got me. Tyvita, what's up, Tyvita? April chiming in, agreeing with PJ. Harden is rubbing off an Embiid. Gross. I agree. Dan Schwartz. What's up, Dan? Hey, guys. Just wanted to thank everyone who has been a part of this chat group and accepting me for the craziness I can be. Dan, you're the man. Welcome in, man. Just says Sixers died on Bridges trade. Send Embiid out to Golden State. He deserves to live in that land of soft pretzels in Cali. Or soft people. Sorry, soft pretzels. Where's my mind at? Soft people in Cali. Yeah, Justin Tippy, not wrong. Sean Kilrain, we talked yesterday about it. I say we get Marcus Stroman. Stroman Rose would be a great acquisition. That he is, I don't know. I feel like he is a guy that always gets talked about. Always gets talked about at the trade deadline. A starting pitcher isn't number one for me. I think you need an outfielder. I think that's above and beyond. I think Alex is right. Bellinger is a perfect match for what the Phillies need. An absolute perfect match. And again, like you guys were talking about yesterday, Andrew McCutcheon would be a good fit here in Philadelphia. Seems to found his groove again. Kutch got his groove back. And then maybe he comes back here to Philadelphia and helps Phillies push into the playoffs. Dan, big thanks to PJ for always being a great dude and engaging with me on some good conversation. You're an awesome guy. He is an awesome guy. That's nice. That's nice, Dan. Shangli, what is up with people wearing long sleeves and hoodies on days like this? What? Long sleeves and hoodies? Ridiculous. Dan Schwartz, most importantly, I really want to thank you. Oh, Daniel. Oh, my goodness. I don't even want to read it out loud, but okay, I'll read it out loud. Mark, you've been a staple in my life for a good amount of time. You've always been accepting of how off kilter I could be and appreciate it. Dan, you're the best, man. No, I appreciate you, man. Even when you would make crazy, photoshops of me, and I thought you wanted to wear my face as a hat in your windowless van. Anyway, someone needs to Nancy Kerrigan. All right. Holy Lord. Now, PJ, just nod for me here. You know about the Nancy Kerrigan fiasco, of course, right? Like, you're not too young for that? Okay. He does. Let me just tell you this real quick story. I'll tell you guys this till the cows come home. Anyone who's not in the media, the next best people to talk to about sports are ushers at the stadium, because they got the stories, man, and cameramen. And I'll never forget this. I remember I was in Miami. We just got done doing a Dolphins game, Sunday Night Football, and somehow in the post-game meal, I'm sitting around with a bunch of my cameraman friends and whatever, and somehow the Nancy Kerrigan situation got brought up. And one of the guys, Jeff Zachary, who was the how do you call that? Steadicam operator for Sunday Night Football for years. He would do a lot of slam dunk contests. You would see him running onto the court on other camera angles, coming in with a Steadicam, but whatever. But somebody brought that up, and Jeff was in the middle of his dinner, and somebody brought up the Nancy Kerrigan thing, and he mentioned a name, and I don't remember the name, but it was like somebody mentioned it, and he goes, "Oh, Tommy Smith," and I was like, "Tommy Smith?" He was like, "Yeah, Tommy Smith is the cameraman that got that shot." I'm like, "What?" He goes, the classic shot of Nancy Kerrigan on the ground screaming, "Why me? Why?" He's like, Tommy Smith was out. He was asked to film the morning skate, and he heard a whacking. He heard a whack. You'll have fun with that. He heard like a whack sound, and he turned around with the camera, and there he got the shot. That's Tommy's camera. And it's just like the way that all comes together, and it's historic now, but it's just how they captured those shots. It's amazing. But yeah, well, Nancy Kerrigan just made me go into that story. Sorry, but thank you for telling me that, Just. Unfortunately, not everyone has been as accepting as you guys. I wish things were different, but I'm back in place where I'm just not right. I need to step away. This includes radio. Oh. All right, Dan. Deleted social. Dan, we love you, brother. Literally. When I see your name in the chat, a lot of you guys, like you guys that are in with me on the live taping here. Look, everyone on the podcast, I appreciate, and the following the show has created over the 2 years plus that we've been doing it has been fantastic. The people like that I interact with, whether that's on social media or that's here during the chat check, like I appreciate you guys. Like I look forward to doing this conversation, whether that's with April, whether that's with the Shawns, whether that's with John Cheeseborough, whether that's with all you guys, Mally, all you, Dan, of course, too. Like, I really look forward to it. I thoroughly enjoy it. This is a show, but that part's not a show. That's just fun for me to interact. So, yeah, Dan, yeah, obviously, keep it coming, man. We're here for you, brother. Dan, I'm just going to say this, brother. We're here for you, brother. We're absolutely here for you. Yeah, April, I share your sentiment. Dan, take the time you need, and your friends will be here for you when you're ready. April, well said. Can't say it any better. Bank Dorito. Let's go otherwise. What are my pronouns? What? That's a first. He, him. Is that what I say? He, him. Jay Owen. Easy T. Alex, all about. All right. I'm going to move on from that. Thank you, Jay. What is going on? Sean Gillespie just said Nancy Kerrigan made ice skating interesting for a second. Let me just say this. I remember when that went down. I remember being a kid when that went down. And I remember I think it was ABC, I think it was Action News, did a story. So everyone was all caught up in the Olympics and Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding and that whole ordeal and Jeff Gillooly and all these names, right? Everyone was all talking about that story. So at one point, I think it was 6 ABC. They did a story. They're like, well, what were we talking about 20 years ago? Because in figure skating, we weren't talking about this. What were we talking about then? And even then, it was like cringeworthy, okay? They go, well, here was the story 20 years. And it was some reporter I never heard of from like 1980. And he was going around talking to these people. And it's like, well, why do you like figure skating? And he'd go up to it was a man on the street bit about why you like figure skating. And, well, actually man on the ice because he's on the ice. He's talking to these people. And he's like, what do you like about figure skating? And it's like all these people are like, well, I really like, I like that there's girls. You watch there's girls. And I like to watch the pretty girls. And then they go around and it's like talking to somebody else who's like, oh, the girls are pretty. I really like their outfit. And it's the next person, well, the girls are pretty. And then the reporter himself turns to the camera and with all seriousness, not a smirk, not even a wink, nothing. He just goes, well, there you have it. Like in the most, I don't know, the biggest cadence you can have as a news person, as a reporter. Well, there you have it. If you want to watch pretty girls, watch figure skating. Let's go back to you guys in the studio. It's like, what the? Like, nowadays, run that piece. Nowadays, I double dog dare you run that piece. Sean, yeah, we just talked figure skating. Yes, we talked figure skating. So there you go. There you go. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, everybody. Let's get over to the Jacob Media YouTube channel, see what's going on there. SSG Base. What's going on? Hey. Trade Embiid and trade the farm for Ohtani. I would love to see Shohei Ohtani here in Philadelphia. I don't think the Phillies are going after Shohei Ohtani in the trade market. I think they're going to go after Shohei Ohtani in free agency. And I think they're going to kick the tires. But I already think they're pretty limited with the fact that they're spending already a holy Lord amount of money on what they have. So I don't think they're going to go much further with that. Jason 18, what's going on? Sad day about Embiid. I think we gonna have to trade Embiid, honestly. Green Maxey is our future. Can't trade him. And it gives you a hands-on feel for what fans are really thinking. I agree on all counts. Embiid, it just was really pissed me off. That's all I got to say right there. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. Dan, we'll have further communication. So thanks, everybody. You guys are awesome. What else do we have? Oh, of course, let's get to the Morning Rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars, skymotorcars.com. This is what blew my mind, ladies and gentlemen, coming from the NFL. So as you have probably heard by now, the New York Giants did not reach an agreement with a fellow by the name of Saquon Barkley. So it's still out there right now as far as the franchise tag. Franchise tags to Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard not reached. Okay? Or excuse me, Saquon Barkley not reached. So you're looking at Josh Jacobs still being dangled out there. Tony Pollard obviously still with the Cowboys. But here's where we're at right now as far as where these guys go as far as their records, the team records in holdout years. So how about this? No long-term deal in tag years, okay? Barkley, Jacobs, Pollard, Le'Veon Bell twice, Darren Sproles back in 2009, Sean Alexander in 05, Edgerrin James in 05. These are guys that sat out the entire season, sat out the entire 2018 season. Le'Veon Bell sat out the entire 2018 season. All these guys, names that I've mentioned, obviously, you go back to 2018 with Le'Veon Bell, 2017 with Le'Veon Bell, 09 with Sproles, 05 with Alexander, 05 with Edgerrin James. All those guys, non-long-term deals, their teams won at least 13 games. Does the running back position matter anymore? Who was it yesterday? Somebody put this out there yesterday. Was it Gunner? Maybe it was Derek Gunn. At what point do young kids just say they don't want to play running back? Like, is the running back position just going to go away? Is this just going to be a passing league and that's that? It's pretty interesting. I will say, though, when you're in high school, you're in college, you're running back, you're pretty popular. That's a hell of a limelight to turn down. Maybe the union steps in. Or maybe they say this is base salary for running backs right now, and they negotiate it. I don't think it'll ever happen, but I think that's the only way they solve that problem of keeping running backs. Pretty amazing stuff right there. It blew my mind that they all won at least 13 games without their star running back, or portions of the season without their star running back, or having not worked out a long-term deal. Pretty interesting. Phillies back at it tonight. Aaron Nola on the hill, 6:40 start time in South Philadelphia. Look forward to that. See if the Phillies can make it 4 wins in a row, keep pace, and maybe even jump back into that wild card standing, because I know we'd all just love to see that. Aaron Nola, first start of the second half of the season. He'll go up against Julio Teheran. Nola is 8-6 on the year with a 4.39 ERA. Julio Teheran 2-3 after being out of baseball for a while there. Out of MLB, I'll say. 3.64 ERA going into tonight's game. As for Aaron Nola, his last start was against the Miami Marlins in the 7-3 loss before the break. He went 6 innings, allowing 4 runs, 5 runs, 4 of them earned, and 3 home runs. They were tattooing him. And that was, of course, after a 7 1/3 inning performance against the Tampa Bay Rays, where he looked like he was lights out and had 12 strikeouts and was virtually unhittable. And that's how that went. And then he went wah against the Marlins, unfortunately. So hey, second half of the season, let's go for a second half push for the Phillies there for Aaron Nola. As far as Julio Teheran goes, the latest run he has been on, the former Atlanta Brave will get a chance to face the Phillies again. He's now 32 years old as the right-handed pitcher. He's coming off a performance against the Cubs and Mets, where he has gotten beat up pretty bad. 13 runs scored in his last 2 starts. He's gone 5 2/3 and 6 innings in those last 2 starts. 13 runs surrendered, unfortunately for him. All of them earned. 9 hits, 7 hits in his last 2 games, only 9 strikeouts. He hasn't walked anybody, so there's that. He's only walked 1. But before that, he looked like he was really settling in nice. But his last 2 starts have been struggle-filled. And he is coming back out to face the Phillies in tonight's game, and it has been 2 weeks actually since his last start. So we'll see how he fares in tonight's game. That'll be a 6:40 start time. Make sure you guys catch us on the Jacob Media YouTube channel for Fightin's post game. I'll be on right after that game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My thanks to Alex Coffey for joining the show today. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with her. Jim Hyder produced the program. Appreciate all you guys in the chat. You guys are great. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Hopefully talking about a Phillies victory. And let's hope no Sixers drama. Let's just hope no Sixers drama. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you guys tomorrow. See ya.